What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40K. So these past videos that I've been putting out have all been focusing around the descent of chaos, how certain chapters fell to chaos and got either weaker or stronger. In this case, however, the Thousand Sons got the short end of the stick. In my opinion, they are the ones that actually hurt the most after falling to Tzeentch's treacherous hands, because they went through a ton of really bad things. So I'm going to go into that video as to not how they actually descended into chaos, because we've touched base on that quite a few times. It was the whole battle between Russ and Magnus the Red, and how basically Magnus was about to die, and in his dying breath pledged his soul and that of his whole legion to that of Tzeentch. So that's how they descended to chaos. What I'm going to be talking about is what happened directly after that, and how Tzeentch's machinations were basically fucking over the Thousand Sons big time. So without further ado, let's dive into the worst legion to become chaos. In the wake of the Horus Heresy, the surviving Thousand Sons found themselves ensnared by an unrelenting curse, a twisted legacy of their unholy exposure to the seething powers of the warp. These mutations that ravaged their bodies and minds grew ever more grotesque and relentless. These were the gifts of Tzeentch, the great architect of change. And as the fires of chaos burned through their flesh and souls, the Thousand Sons found themselves descending into a nightmare of mindlessness, becoming chaos spawn. Their every attempt to halt the tide of mutation was futile, and with each passing day, they lost the last shred of their humanity, the very thing they had fought so desperately to preserve after the fall of Prospero. Ahriman, the chief librarian and trusted advisor to Magnus the Red, had watched the mutations begin to consume his brethren even before that of the Great Crusade. He had vowed in the shadow of his twin brother to find a way to end the flesh change. This was no idle promise, and it became his sole focus of his existence. Ahriman poured every ounce of his being into halting this rampant mutation, even as his own body began to bear the terrible mark of the curse. His obsession consumed him, and the grim solitude of exile on the planet of sorcerers, this is where Ahriman devised his terrible solution, the rubric. But his solution came at a cost. When the rubric was unleashed upon his brothers, it did not cleanse them. It did not cure them. Instead, it fractured the Thousand Sons even further, tearing them between the living and the dead, the man and the machine. Those weak of mind, those without psychic power, were obliterated and their forms reduced to ash. Those with power were transformed into something far worse. Soulless husks bound forever to their armor, their will stripped away, but their minds locked in eternal torment. Ahriman had succeeded in halting the mutation, but at the cost of his legion's very identity. Magnus the Red was enraged by this unholy spell cast upon his legion. He had been poised to destroy Ahriman and his cabal for their sacrilege. Yet, as his wrath descended, Tzeentch, the changer of ways, intervened. "You destroy my pawns too easily," the god of change had said. And in that moment, Ahriman's fate was sealed. Exiled from the planet of sorcerers, Ahriman and his cabal were cast into the galaxy, cursed to wander in search of forbidden power and knowledge to undo the horrors that they had wrought. For millennia, Ahriman hunted the darkest secrets of the universe, seeking power enough to rewrite his legion's fate. His quest had brought him into conflict with the Imperium and the Inquisition, who view him as a threat so dire they would rather see entire worlds burn than let him lay his hands on sacred artifacts. And yet, Ahriman persists. The artifacts he gathers, the psychers he corrupts, the souls he twists, all serve his singular goal: to control the powers of chaos and bend them to his will. For in the 13th Black Crusade, Ahriman came closer than ever to achieving his most coveted prize, the Black Library of the Eldari, a repository of forbidden knowledge concerning the very nature of chaos itself. Through cunning and deceit, he secured a way into the webway, a labyrinthine dimension between reality and the warp, using a captured Inquisitor as his pawn. His journey was fought with peril, battling against ancient guardians of the Black Library as he sought its forbidden wisdom. But as he drew nearer to his goal, the forces of the Eldari struck back, and Ahriman was cast from the webway, his ambitions shattered, or so it seemed. For even as he was being cast out, he had transcribed the fabled tome Lambrithus, a manuscript that granted him power to navigate the webway at will. With this, Ahriman could access hidden portals that led to worlds settled by the Imperium, including that of the ancient forbidden gates that lead to Fenris, the death world of the Space Wolves Legion, the bitter enemies of his own. And with this power, Ahriman could once again enter the webway, and perhaps even return to the Black Library, where the cure he so desperately seeks may rest. Though many believe Ahriman serves Tzeentch, the truth is darker still. Ahriman sees himself not as a pawn of the Changer of Ways, but as a master of his own destiny, a sorcerer of unmatched power whose mind is sharp enough to command the eddies and flows of the warp. He believes that chaos can indeed be tamed, and that its chaotic tides can be controlled with strength of will and intellect. And in this, he is more dangerous than ever, for though he may dance to the tune of Tzeentch, it is Ahriman who guides the steps. The legion he once led, now reduced to a horrific hybrid of man and machine, are his tools, and with them, he will reshape the universe in his image, or burn it to cinders in the process. For Ahriman's quest continues. The shadow of his dark ambition looms ever larger. The Imperium's enemies have not yet seen the full extent of his power, nor have they glimpsed the horrors that he is capable of unleashing upon them. His time is coming, and when it does, the galaxy will remember the name of Ahriman, the exiled sorcerer, the fallen librarian, and the architect of the galaxy's doom. So with that being said, guys, that's basically a quick summary as to what Ahriman has done and what he's trying to accomplish. He is a very interesting character because, for one, he's trying to overcome his wrongdoings. The spell that he thought would make him the savior of his legion actually doomed him into exile and made his legion even worse. One can say this was always Tzeentch's plans to make sure that the Thousand Sons would always be in the palm of his hand. And with that being said, Tzeentch is pretty much the machinations of this whole thing. In doing this flesh change and having Ahriman try to find the overall cure, the solution to what's going on with his brother's souls and the loss of their bodies, he's basically guiding Ahriman on a scavenger hunt, putting him in key positions where he can do the most damage to the enemies of Tzeentch, so he is enslaved, albeit he thinks he is in control. But that's exactly how Tzeentch works. He makes his pawns believe they are much more than what they are, but in reality, they're just running endlessly in the labyrinth of Tzeentch, thinking to themselves that they are the best they can be, when in reality, they're completely lost. So let me know your thoughts down below, guys. Do you feel that the Thousand Sons actually got stronger with this flesh change, or with being not soulless, but bodiless souls trapped in their armor? Of course, if you played Space Marine 2, we've seen the Thousand Sons in actions, and in my opinion, they're not that strong. They're basically just like robots, and what makes them strong are the Psychers. So the few Psychers that are capable of unleashing torrents of hellfire, summoning demons of Tzeentch, that's where the real threat lies, but there are currently so few of those within the ranks of the Thousand Sons. But does the mighty power of the few overcome the weakness of the many? Let me know in the comments down below. And with that being said, let me know what other traitorous legion you want me to cover their fall on. We still have Night Lords. I don't even know if the Word Bearers count, because they were kind of always treacherous and they were always destined to fall to chaos with Lorgar and Erebus, Gorferon, etc. But we can always talk about them as well. So let me know your thoughts down below. And as always, it's been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.